All right, hello. Live on YouTube to finish inking John Molina's CROM in the Serpent's Lair, the last page. I'm going to take you through the first 7 pages. This is the 8th page that is penciled, which I will be inking. All right, looks like we are rocking and rolling. Checking. All right, here we go. All right, so let me move this off to the side. I just want to take you guys through. I have been working diligently on completing these 8 pages, part 2 of John Molina's CROM and the Serpent's Lair. I keep saying things and want to, so it's just the way I am. This is actually something I'll probably end up getting into by the end of the episode, but it'll be something that I'll end up finishing away from live streaming, just to be able to really kind of focus in for that. And that's using the 0.5 high tech C inking pen. It's like a rapidograph. I have I've done my screens. I had my screens in, printed it out. Been using my Fudenosques hard tip. These are the blue colored ones. There's a dark green one, which is a soft tip. It's coming along well. I'm using Artistro's extra fine tip paint marker to do the lettering and some of the sound effects. But as you can see, things are coming along very nicely. Charlie, what's going on? Your copy of the CROM mock-up, CROM Anthology number 2 mock-up is on its way. I just got notification like a day or two, so be on the lookout. So yeah, good morning. Page 2, and actually there's like page 11 because it is a part 2 for a story, as the story arc goes and everything. But same deal, got all the lettering in. Coming along nicely, I have to say. Page 3, which is actually 12 of the story. This is really this panel I love a lot. It's great. There's a lot of really nice panels. This panel is interesting. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but in the pencils, actually I could show you here. And this is one of those things in
image preview.
Okay, thank you. In the here, yeah, it's here. So I'm pretty sure John meant this, but if he didn't, I used it, and it's cool. So it's like just one of those things in flow that ended up getting there. But you kind of see that there's this line here that kind of gave me an indication that there was like a big sun. So I ended up cutting that, and I really do love that panel, just with that less, because if this was just a solid screen, it's just too heavy and flat. Like this is a little tough at times up here because this is kind of screaming like, hey, put something else in here, but I don't know yet. So I do actually have to add screens here and here. That was another thing. Kind of look like, and it might, John might even call it, he's like, no, that's fine. This is just the wall itself. But I don't know. There could be something kind of cool where it's like, this is sort of like the top again, or like around a corner or something, and that's the hole that he's going to go into the layer. And then this would be screen. But I'll check, because that's something I can do post in Photoshop. And then if I don't like it, I can just come back to the page and then do more rock inking on it. So I also I'm going to put a nice digital cold 02, which is the kind of insignia for this entryway. Excited about that. And he's inside. One thing I've got to double check on the language over here, give myself an indication. I'll reach out to John and ask him for clarity on that. But liking this page a lot. And this is where noodling with the high tech C is going to come in. But there'll be different, there'll be other things too where I know that I'm going to want to get this darker and go, kind of go out lighter, into here. So I'll start playing around in there just to be able to anchor this a little bit more. This will be black. That'll be black. But some cross hatching, some supporting cross hatching will happen. Of course, then he finds Malcolm, the daughter of the warlord, and of course then Marsari appears, and of course she's so enamored with him she goes to his side, which then turns this whole thing ugly. Look at this page. Great page. Great action page. Really great action page. Very manga. But just in like comic book storytelling, I really put time in on especially doing, these kind of different, just gradation, cutting out some designs and everything, but just to support the impact of John's design here. This ping. So this is 6, which is page 13. 15, which is the thing. But that fight's not over yet. So CROM bum rushes him, gives him a thwack and a whomp. It was the card I used for the graphic for the title card at YouTube. I put CROM up here. Whomp. CROM. Gasp. I love that kind of stuff. That's, once again, really, I think this is 100% comic book storytelling because of the integration of the sound effects. I think if there were no sound effects, it would be less than 80% in its value as a comic for me. When I see people really integrating the onomatopoeias, the sound effects, and everything, that's just I'm in. I'm locked in, especially when it's a black and white book. And then even this like little down here, like shunk, it slides the sword back into the scabbard. So, but yeah, Marsari has taken pretty powerful punch. He might be down for the count, but we're going to find out whether that's true. Because it kind of isn't true. So pencil wise, just going to keep the page open just for reference because there, but I got to get to inking. So let me start drafting some Fudenosuke lineage here, some borders. This is kind of fun here. Did leave this here. I'm gonna end up taking it out. Looks a little weird. But... This was a weird panel. Only weird in that I haven't quite locked into feeling for it, but I have a really good take on it. I'm hoping I'm doing it justice. It's basically the, you got this 3-part sequence, which, kind of leads here, but then there's a reaction, and then I, have, or sorry, had made the change into this serpent creature. So just being mindful of bringing some strength to the design. Yeah, there's even an idea that I'll ink this as is, but I think even in Photoshop I might make this bigger, bring it out bigger. But yeah, these are all decisions that I feel are fun as a finisher, inker, whatever this is called now. Because like this is kind of wild. Like I'm not going to draw a border here. I'm going to keep this head this way. This is a ceiling for this room, but I kind of used it to stay up. Like it gets smaller, and hopefully get you to jump back over to here. It works. We'll find out when it's all said and done. You have a really light. I do. I take my pages. These being John's pencil pages. They're in underneath the faux zipatones that I had made in Photoshop. Then I even do the text. So the lettering, narration, dialogue, and then sound effects, just kind of block them in. And then everything goes to 10% on the layer, which then is printed. But then my screens are at 100%, which as that the dots are placed there. I think gives like a 30 to 40% gray value, probably more like a 40. It's not quite a 50, but I think it definitely works. And then that's why I have, the scan pages in here, because then I can kind of really blow up. Just have the reference, because like here it gets a little difficult to see. Because I want to stay as true to John's pencils, which were obviously, the initial thinking he was having for the story. And the I'm so enamored with his style, the Amaramunga style. I don't want to displace anything. I don't want to ruin it. And that's one of the things about me. As I've done work in comics or what have you, I really don't mind not being me. Like I did like work for hire work. That was the predominant work that I was getting in the mid 90s. And I didn't get a lot of credit. I know a lot of work I did never saw the light of day. Some of it wasn't even paid. I never got paid for or what have you. But I loved inking or finishing the pencils, or just kind of coming in without me having to be a dominant force in the game, like a writer or the penciler and stuff. So it's also, what, Jake and I were, we had teamed up primarily to do comics. But it was almost like, every time I saw him it was at a show. Um, oh yeah, definitely, Charlie, give it a try. It's fun. I mean, everything's here. I don't have to really worry about too much other than my work. But Jake and I would be, at these shows, and you know, we would be getting work, working on stuff together, kind of come up and everything. But I really do enjoy being a part of a team or a step in the process for making a comic book. It used to be inker, colorist. So I am just as happy as can be. Um, with inking. And I definitely believe I brought set it up where I was last week or last time I was here live streaming, the idea of a whole entire issue of CROM Anthology inked by me. That could be interesting. But, some people don't want their stuff touched. I don't want to kind of place upon people like, now I can't get in, or now if I want to get in, I have to have Kurt, ink a version of my work. But that's kind of the thinking too, is the version, like my version of inking somebody else's work that has already been completed and published. I like that idea a lot. We do have this variant cover thing. I believe killing the industry in one way. It does let a lot of people earn probably a decent living. I mean, I guess in the way of like getting paid to do just a cover. But I would love to see things. I'd love to see like versions of comics come back out or come out, from the interior. Like I think the easiest one to do, and I still don't understand. I mean, there is cost effectiveness, so I'm not going to say I don't understand why they don't do it. It's just the black and white version. Like, you know what I mean? Like whoever the artist is on the job, just say like, hey, we want to see when you've gotten those pages completed at that black and white stage, and send them to us. But yeah, at that same point, some people, don't really work as it used to be traditionally, where the page was, pencil laid out, and then inked, then colored, like there were final stages going along. Most digital artists, or I would say a majority of digital artists, are working within the penciling and the inking and the coloring is basically one stage. It's just what you're getting accomplished when you're getting it accomplished. Probably a lot like what I'm doing, where it's, you're jumping around, and it also affords people to have their own approach to making a comic, especially if they don't have to hand pages over to said ink or colorist. If they're that dominant person, artist making. So it is, I think, something that is to be still explored. So for me, with CROM Anthology, it could be something where, Jamie Barrows and I have had conversations. His first CROM story, which is Skullcracker, I would love to do a version of it, and we've talked about it, and he's been like, oh yeah. So, and then it ultimately came to that I now have an original story written and penciled by Jamie. So, we're going with that first. But there's a very good chance in a future issue of CROM Anthology, we will see a second version of Skullcracker, I believe. Yeah, CROM Skullcracker by Jamie Burrows, inked. A variant ink version by Kurt Inker. So I enjoy what I do, and do want to find more opportunities, and I'm hoping the anthology. There are people out there that have met through the anthology and are working together, like Ron Parsons and Drawn Sword. That's like one of the bigger ones, with CROM Courageous, and yeah. So there's nothing saying that people wouldn't have the ability to partner. Matt Boyd has a story coming out, his first comic, and the script is by Steven Sonneveld. And there's another one too. There's a Richard Wagg, Child Killer. He did the written story by Steven Sonneveld. So he did that. So that'll be coming in a CROM Anthology. So it is happening, but it would be really amazing to see the community and anthologies be very integral to each other in accomplishing projects, getting writers involved, and getting, somebody starting it, another person finishing it. I was even thinking today when I was working this morning on John Molina's pages, there's nothing saying that he's going to be, giving us another part, on the next part anytime soon, because, it's not like John's a professional artist. He also has different, things he would like to work on. So, this is not a hard-lined, situation. But it might be, and it would be very interesting to me that if somebody who had a similar style, Amerimanga style, came along and said, "Oh, I've been really following CROM anthologies, and I've noticed, it's been a while, and I was wondering if I could contribute to John Molina's CROM and the Serpent's Lair." I would say 100% yes, but reach out to John and work out that. I would not see any reason why John wouldn't say, yeah, it'd be really cool to get another person, take on this, picking the story up and moving from there. So, the two things that are working against us in modern art making, comics, indie comics specifically, is time and attention. Like, I had a big struggle today on whether I was just going to ink this page, some of my music in the background, or I was going to spend 20, 30 minutes setting up a live stream to then come on and live stream. I opted to live stream, and it's basically because I was going to be sitting here doing this anyway, so why not just take the extra time and make it happen? But there's time involved in making pages, and I know for myself, I can't be the only one feeling like, oh, I got 30 minutes free and time in 2 hours, what can I get accomplished? But there can also be like, well, 30 minutes is not enough, so why bother? I wouldn't bother working on that. Maybe I'll work on something else, that kind of thinking that, can come along and stuff. But there's something that happens like tomorrow. I have to do a lot of prepping for, not a lot. I first Turbo Pit Fighter, that episode, because I'm coming to finish the last 10 pages of Turbo Pit Fighter issue #1. And I have a lot of screens, masking screens I need to print out and get ready for cutting and then setting up, for the spray paint and all that kind of stuff. So there's some things that I'm going to have to do, prepping wise and stuff. But what if like you just like, let's say the 2 hours, at that point I was just saying 2 hours from now you got 30 minutes, but then you have something you're working on with somebody else in the community, and you're like, oh yeah, I could throw another 30 minutes on so and so's pages, and working on I think that's incredibly motivating. I feel like it's hard for me to sit on my hands knowing this amazing story needs to get inked. It's not my story, it's John Molina's, but I want to see this thing done probably just as much as he does. There's really not a choice on whether, I'm going to work on the pages if I have that 30 minutes, free. But at the same time, am I going to, live stream them? That kind of becomes one of the things. It's a very interesting way of living in the arts now. But like I say, the thing I'm kind of hoping it kind of comes around the corner is, and this is on me too, because I am planning over time making a members area so people would be able to sign into a Google workspace and have the ability to work on a project together or come in and say they would like to work on that project because somebody's posted that they want, and that can be a conversation. It's just people don't have to feel so much on their own making all the decisions all the time, which I can't imagine there's somebody out there. I enjoy being an artist. Hey, thank you, Sardonicus. I enjoy being an artist. I don't like the solidarity of it, or no, the solitude, being in the mountain of solitude, on my own all the time. So that's one of the reasons I enjoy coming here and doing live streaming, especially when I have a great audience, making comments and being there. But unlike going into a place of work, which I could not stand while working for a multimedia company, because there's a whole bunch of bean counters, they call them, right? There's just individuals that are waiting for their purpose to come into the know, and then give their 2 cents on what should and shouldn't happen. Hey guys, maybe we should try to do this. And they're not the creative people. But there is something to be said about being a part of a group and working together. That is one of the underlining goals. So I do have a CROM Google work space that I'm figuring out. I feel like I need to get the CROM Anthology thing just up and going, instead of like they say horse before the cart kind of thinking, like, hey guys, become a member. A member of what? We only have one CROM Anthology. It's not like there's not going to be other CROM Anthologies, but let's just take our time. And so I will definitely be keeping people on that. And, you know, and it will be one of those things where I think it's going to happen naturally, and it'll get set up most definitely with myself, for, you know, at the first, and I'll be maybe the inker, you know, the finisher, you know, but we'll have the CROM Anthology workspace there. I have to say, the Instagram groups, you know, the chat groups that I'm in, you know, with the Brutal Blade of CROM. Well, right now it's Blood Maidens. What was the other one? Well, I know Alex Turbin has me in Flux and Random Access, but the primary one of like Jamie Burrows leading CROM Anthology or um, Blood Maidens is, you know, there's the updating, and, you know, people post pages and stuff, and I think it's really great. It's a little insular in the sense that the only people seeing those, I mean, you know, you're posting them on your, hopefully you're on your social media, your Instagram and elsewhere, waiting until the story's done, you know, it's published. But for me, it seems a bit challenging to kind of be in an open wide space and just being kind of kind of shouting into said room. Let's say it's like it's very foreign to me, I should say, but I am warming up to it. It is a great way to be kept, you know, up to date on what's going on. You know, once again, you know, Jamie Jones as Jamie Jones. I have a friend. I have a very dear friend named Jamie Jones. So don't feel bad, Jamie Burrows. I just think of you as more a dear friend. Um, it has a life, you know. It's not that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or 5 days a week, 9 to 5, working on comics. You know, can have things. You know, yeah, it just needs to be a one place, one spot, one shout, one hey, you know, and move on, keep moving on. Totally get that. Totally get that, and respect it. So, and like I said, I think I'm learning and coming around to appreciate it. The other thing, though, I have to say is I am very concerned for the longevity of that group. You know, being hosted on Meta, you know, Instagram. Um, Mello, good morning. Um, and it's very concerning. So if you have something like CROM Anthology, Google Workspace, in a members area, um, my garbage trucks. I have the window open. I have to. It's so bloody beautiful out here. Um, you know, I control that. You know, other than Google disappearing, which we all know that's not going to happen anytime soon. Other than morphing whatever in the world in ways of AI. I'm gonna mute this real quick just to save everybody from. And we're back. Sorry about that, everybody. Nothing like a garbage truck coming through. Those guys got to get their job done. It is Friday. So here we have morphing of Marsari. Couldn't help but to think about Thulsa Doom, played by James Earl Jones, and that metamorphosis. Can you always hear the song? What a soundtrack. Can never get sick of hearing that soundtrack. When I got that CD, oh my Lord, and I was working on my proposed Conan pages, or sword and sorcery level projects. That thing was just on autoplay on my CD box. One thing I also have to say, if I haven't said it already, I'm going to say it again. This will probably be the last time I talk about John's work for a while. Now that I'll be putting this story to bed. These pages. The other thing about working on top of somebody else's work, and this is definitely a nerdy thing for me, is being able to see how they think. It's one thing to see somebody's pages and be like, oh wow, those are really cool, those are really good, but there's another thing to have the opportunity to redraw or ink, finish, whatever, and be working over somebody else's thinking. Like that's John, when working on this leg, maybe had a reference for like a chicken foot, or an alligator, and this might be like an alligator foot. You just bring it up on your phone as a reference, and work it out. I get that vibe of the alligator foot, so I go back into my memory. But I just have to say, like, it's some solid thinking. And having worked on 17 pages of John's pencils and looking into his thinking, I like his thinking a lot, his drawing. In the interview we had, he was saying how the dream, it was originally becoming an animator, working in animation. Well, whatever he did for the time being, in order to get into that business, whether it happened or not, he really took it in, the whole approach to drawing as an animator and the storytelling, because these pages are just so well thought out. And would look very much forward to inking him again and again. So who knows? Who knows what the future holds? So I'll be heading towards next week. Jamie Burrows. Let me just show him off real quick. Jamie Burrows, the Barbarians in the Pit. Yep, here we are. I was just thinking about these yesterday, and I'm going to go crazy on these. I think I'm actually going to print them out on cardstock, these pencils on cardstock. And then I'm going to do some like really just playing. And I'm going to show off that play because I really want there to be some splashiness, some like brushiness, and then spray can-ness. So very much looking forward to making my way to those pages. And my goal right now is to work on everybody else's, finishing everybody else's items on the docket because of the submissions made. You know, we have in the mock-up. And that'll make me feel a whole lot safer in my feeling for getting all my stuff done without having that feeling of like got to work on so and so stuff. It's not true, not true at all. Nothing like drawing some serpent people scales. John Molina's in the house, stopping by. Thank you, sir. You've made my job easy. That's all I got to say. These pencils, the storytelling is amazing work, my friend. Amazing work. I hope you're doing well. I hope this is getting your juices going for part 3. But I know you're working on other things right now, which is absolutely beautiful. And yeah. Like I've said before, I do apologize if I kind of go radio silent here, only because I'm concentrating. I don't want to mess up. Isn't that a funny way of looking at making your art? Like, let's say this is my comic book story. I wrote it, I drew it, I'm now finishing it and stuff. And I was anxious in the way of not wanting to mess it up. The question is this: what is there in the world specifically that I'm using in order to say, oh shit, I messed that up? Like, what is it that has to happen that I mess up? You know, messing up is that really just not being proficient at something enough? Like, it looks, as maybe somebody would say, amateur. Doesn't look like mainstream comics. Doesn't look like Frank Miller. Doesn't look like John Buscema. Doesn't look like, is this how we would rationalize messing up? Because the truth for me is, I love messing up because I find no audio. Have I been talking with them? No, I got audio, right? Testing 1, 2, 3. Can everybody? Sorry, disregard. Okay. Woo. All right. I did go mute. I was just looking to see if I didn't unmute myself. So messing up. I love messing up, and that's the secret to learning. And I think even more importantly, which is, I think it's talked about more often than not among artists nowadays, that's how you find your style. Because one of the things, if you're doing, which I do too, if you're trying to map yourself towards a particular, like a look in comics, or like, let's say, said favorite comic book artist, John Buscema, Barry Windsor Smith, Frank, whatever. You're going to mess up because you're not John Buscema, Barry Windsor Smith, Frank Miller. So it's not going to look like them, So, but that feeling of messing up, I think it's necessary. We don't want it to be deterrent, a deterrent. But we also don't want it to keep us from just taking that 30 minutes that we have in 2 hours and make something. It falls under the whole being productive. Sure, we've all heard that in our reviews, working for people, companies. Yeah, we need you to be a little more productive, Maybe not do this, maybe do more of this. Okay. Okay. All right, here we go. We got the big ARG. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring a bigger brush out. Ooh. That's what I use. Remember I was talking about these dual acrylic paintbrush markers. This is the Tanmit, Tanmit. I think I'm going to use the brushy part of this because I'm going to fill this in. If I got to wipe this out or do something there, I'm going to do that because I already know now Yeah. Yeah. Where's my, there it is. Whew. All right. Do you ever use a Sharpie to fill out large areas in black? I do not. It's not black enough for me, Sharpie. I actually use, these are Shinputsus. I forget what they're called. They're Pilot. Let me, I can find them on the name of them. I always forget what they're called. I get them from Jet Pens. All right. That's right. I knocked out the Jet. And I Jen. Gotta log in. Here they are. All right. Shunpitsu. Shunpitsu. And they're dual. So they got, this is the, I'm going to use this right now, as a matter of fact. This is beautiful black. And this pretty bold, so it lays in very well, especially when it's a new pen, and then it has a like a medium. So like if you kind of put these three together, I get a decent, like, good flat black range, pen wise. So that's a pretty standard. Other than that, this is an Artistro as well, but it's the white, the black, the high tech, the Funinosuke, and the Shinpitsu. This is pretty clutching in, like, the way of, like, getting this, like, skeletal inking process done. All right. Yeah, and then I have, like, tons of like other pens. Like there's, like, nice udon bowl full of pens. There's a croissant tray I put pens on. As a matter of fact, I just bought two of these just to try to get a little more. These were like $2 at Target. So I just picked them up real quick and haven't done anything, but I have so many, like, I like keeping things compartmental. Like these are a lot of the grays and black and white pencils. These are the paintbrush markers. Look, I was looking for that. Put it over there. But I pick up different odd pens here and there. But I'm really still working out how to keep things not only organized. Oh, I have like pen racks, 2 pen racks. I'm going to archive only because they just don't work in my situation right now. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't got to that point. But my workflow is pretty locked in. Other than integration of color, I am figuring out how to integrate color more and more. Even when it gets down to, that looks weird. Doing colored work almost in a way to have it printed black and white. And that'll make sense when I do it more. I'm doing the CROM Junior cartoon in full color. I'm actually getting pretty anxious about getting to it because I have this new theory idea I want to apply. I'm hoping works. That's the really anxious part of it. If it works, it's going to take care of not having to buy an airbrush, because I'm going to figure out a way to faux the airbrush look. But like you can see, I mean, I have my hand just clutches this group of things, and I'm pretty good. I mean, I'll make my way through the rest of this page. Because that was the other thing. I did not want to bring any texture into John's pencils because I did not want to lose the pencils. I wanted as much of the pencils shown off as much. So my inking is really just working off of his pencils, which I think is happening. I do believe. Perfect point to bring. Here's the medium size tip, which seems to be drying out on this one. That's all right. See, I just got to reload. So those are, I want to go through my other ones before I bring out a new one. Oh, this one works good. This is fine. A lot of times I really don't mind the dry brush as an effect with these pens, so don't really complain. But you can see how, you know, it's is like the other thing too I found is the Fudenosuke soft tip is very much like this one. This is just a little larger, just a little bit. I mean, scrutiny wise, probably not that different. So instead of buying the 2-pack, which had the hard and the soft, and then this, and then basically having two of the soft tips, I opted out of the Fudenosuke soft and then just use this as that third, it's actually second tip go to. And luckily, I did not buy a bunch of these, the soft tips. I didn't have. I think I only bought like 2 sets. They sell the hard and the soft tip in a kit. I have seen them at Target. So if you are a Target shopper, you might actually find them there. But you don't know with these larger corporations, can kind of come to rely on them. You know, I'll just go up the street and get, this pen or this paper or this pencil or eraser. No, sir, we don't carry those anymore. Why? I don't know why. So then you got to go all the way back. If you need it fast, get it on the Amazon Prime. One thing about the Target Art Supplies Center, it's really just stationary. Their kid friendly supplies or their starter art supply kits and stuff, like the gouache, that it's some good stuff. Their pads of paper, the multimedia pads, good stuff. So, and they usually are at a pretty decent price. How are we doing on time? Huh? Been at this for an hour. Pretty good. This would go a lot faster if I didn't have to simultaneously think up something to say next. So if there's anything you want me to chitty chat about over the next couple minutes, feel free to put it in the comment. Because I love sharing my opinion. Especially when it comes to art. The thing about what I'm doing right now is it's like a dance between what John has put out in pencil and what I'm making very quick decisions on. Embellishing, I think, would be a good word. But come on, like, thank you, John Molina, for giving this lizard creature to to ink. The last thing to ink. How much fun is this. I love it. One of the best things about YouTube. Thank you, Trent. And I find it to be really hopeful for me and anybody else that's doing this kind of stuff. But years ago, I'm starting to see like 7 or 8 years ago, somebody or like specifically, I'm going to speak to watching somebody like Joe Kubert draw. There's a ton of him being filmed. Um, uh, I'll answer that in just a second, John Molina. Um, it is to be able to watch Joe Kubert, like somebody like Joe Kubert Inc. And a video just popped up. I gotta find it, but it was just him, like doing his thing. And the reason it brought it up is in my mind is doing this down here. It's just this sort of mindless um, ticking, to make this effect to then give somebody the feeling for, lizard, that type of thing and stuff. And I just find it to be so nice to be able to watch somebody, especially like Joe Kubert, work. And there's I know I'm probably just I am preaching to the choir here that yeah, Kurt, we know. I've watched everything under the sun with like John Kubert, Joe Kubert, but I just find that to be a blessing, you know. And if you didn't know, then like I think even if you did a search for Joe Kubert drawing, you'll get a couple of these because I know that the Kubert school dumped a bunch of the just like training kind of videos or studying kind of videos or something like that. But I like that a lot. To John Molina's question, did you ever think about selling comics on Amazon? John Molina, get over to cromthebarbarian.com. The first menu tab is called Amazon. I have 3 comics up there right now, and I'm right now pending. This is very exciting news. I am pending, waiting for the approval for CROM Anthology #1, not only as print, but for a digital reading as well. So I have to say with confidence, I am pretty close to cracking the code. I know my layouts, I had to relay this whole book out because they have a very specific holding to margin and trim. So I did that, and then there's just it's kind of a good thing trying to get your book up on Amazon because they are so stringent that it forces us to I'm just saying, anybody who wants to get the work formatted properly. And I feel like I've been able to do that. I've figured out how to get the books formatted. So, like for instance, with CROM Anthology #2, I already have the pages templated to an Amazon format, and therefore, when it comes time to release, it will be on Amazon as well as being on CROM Barbarian for sale. So that's pretty freaking good. And then the versions will be from here on out identical. Because you got to kind of, that one thing they don't like, and I like doing, is blowing up an image and having text. But once that text goes out from the bleed, like when it goes out to the trim, it freaks out Amazon. So they always bounce it back, and they give you education on trimming, and you've got to but they give you specific instruction and how to and even give you a location to the page. And I don't want to say too specifically, but when you read the bounce back error message, and then you hit that, you're like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. I can do this then. And then, usually it works. All right, here we are at the home stretch. John Molina, if you're still there, do these serpents have like their own like identity, like a name, like everybody, like this type of lizard creature, serpent creature? Do you have like like this is a species, called such and such? And then Trent, the Qbert videos are from their correspondence courses. Yep, but you can still find a super cut of just the drawing bits. Yep. Cut out and thing. Yeah, and that's probably what I'm actually seeing, are just the cutout bits of him, talking about whatever it is in a drawing demo. But other than John Buscema, Joe Qbert would be, in my opinion, as a comic book artist, he would be the man to ape. Like the way he just, it's almost like his person being there is in the way of him making comics and drawings and such. Such a flow, a natural being of existing in a creative flow and process. Has always, his tour comic next to like Conan is just I dare say it. It almost makes me want to just like not even bother, because Tor is like one step in the right direction towards a proper barbarian character, in my opinion. So, but yes, John Molina says in response to my serpent's species question, I haven't thought about it that far yet, but it is a true form, though. That is his true form. The human version of him is a resting state, as in stress free. Woo! So then, so these guys kind of move in between the state of being in a human form and a serpent form. That's cool. Super cool. But yeah, in sword and sorcery, serpent cults, we have that long line of inspiration and motivation to work from. So I was just talking last week about Robert E. Howard's Cull story, the first one, Shadow Kingdom. What an amazing bit of what I call cosmic horror. Ooh, that's exciting. I like these horns on the forearms. That would be a piece of armament you wouldn't want to get hit with, like an elbow in a fight now. CROM, you better watch out, buddy. Boom. Fun fact, Marsari means snake man and Pashto, an Afghan dialect. Pashto, Afghan. Sorry, snake man. Oh, see, that's always fun. Love that kind of stuff. When you look at the whole of Robert E. Howard's universe and how he took bits and pieces of everything he liked from antiquity, history, ancient civilizations and stuff, is obviously super inspiring. And what young fledgling comic book artist didn't spend days and hours just trying to come up with cool sounding names in all different places, and then you end up watching some history thing. And you're like, oh wow, that's so cool. I have in the scheduling of my life as a creative, at some point, probably into the next year, but I want to take some time and devote to. I work on it a little bit here and there, so it won't be like a fresh coming in at it, but kind of a CROM lore book based off of Gardner Fox's, not only his CROM, his first original CROM comics, but also his 3 Sword and Sorcery um, paperback novel series: Nile the Faller Travels, Kothar Barbarian Swordsman, and Kyric Warlock Warrior. So um, that's in various stages, but I really kind of get super anxious about. I need to devote my time to putting together something. And of course, every time I sit down to work on it, uh, Dungeons and Dragons comes into the thoughts. And I'm trying to make something for gamers. Could be interesting. Could be interesting. But as much as I would like to just kind of catalog like the world that Fox inadvertently built through these series of um, sword and sorcery worlds, which are all very much the same. Um, you know, more or less like errors in from story to story than like separate places. That's kind of the feeling that comes across hopeful more than not. But yeah, if I had all the time in the world. Coming into the home stretch, people. Peoples. The next thing I'm going to give you is some firsthand witnessing of my handwriting skills. So we're going to call it an episode. All right. Let me grab this big, thick. Ba-bum-bum. Thank you, Charlie. Good to have you. Stopping by today. Oh boy, and then we got the ARG here, or the RORG. Stay. Ooh. Ooh. All right. Now, whew, get some lettering done and then call it a day. Call it what may. Chris, thank you very much. Thank you for stopping by. I think this pen is getting a little. Oh, nope, it's awake now. So the font, if you want to find it, it's a free download on the internet. I don't remember what website, but it's just called Comics Helvetic. Helvetic? Yeah, Helvetic. No, Helvetic, Helvetic. And it's pretty like generic, but it is just absolutely what I need to just have here, already laid out for me to just handwrite in the way that I handwrite over the top of it. So I used Arial Narrow for a while, but I think I randomly did a search for maybe even a Helvetica version and found this. Let me get this out of the way. I don't need this anymore. It will still be me. Come back to me. The other thing too about the Artistro, the bullet point has a bit of a flex to it, so I can kind of get a bold out of it by just kind of pressing down a little bit more, and then getting my hand, getting a tilt in there. Make a shaky hiss. Bam! There we go, people. Woo! Now this is not done. Hold your horses. This is, let me get, here we go. Let's go to the source. So the first, heck yeah, man. Cool. Pretty damn fast thinking. Pretty brave just to freehand lettering. Yeah, well, got to get it done. So, but you made it very easy, John. Your pencils and layouts were very accommodating, especially for putting the lettering in there. So, got to thank you on that. But all I have to do now, and I'll probably do it on Monday, whether John's back here. Here it is. And you get a good, so you see how I come in and bring the high-tech C pen in for these lighter lines, hatching lines. elements. Nothing too extravagant. You can kind of see how instead of just leaving all that white, I just come in and just bring in. It's real touch and go, but I'll also be making notes and indications for things I'll do in post for in Photoshop. But to say these pages are pretty well done is a truth. So I just want to thank everybody. CROMthebarbarian.com. You know what I'm going to do? Just give me a second here. I'm going to see if I can. I got to do something. So I keep forgetting to do it. I am going to. Oh, no. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Okay. Can I edit that one? Yeah. All right. Come. All right. Thank you. Save and show. All right. There we go. You should see CROMthebarbarian.com at the bottom. I know everybody loves hanging out on social media to get their news. The biggest thing is I'll be putting Monday a pretty heavy newsletter together to give an update. Definitely because the 30th is just around the corner for getting work in. As I talked about extensively in the last episode, Inking CROM Pages, episode 2, about keeping low to no stress, and getting ready. So really getting excited about that. But CROMthebarbarian.com is the place to go to get information, to find out what's happening. Also to keep in touch with, when things are going on and where things are at right now. And most importantly, buying CROM comics, extensively beyond CROM anthologies. The CROM books that I have put together, I have bought copies and have them in the store for purchase. So with that being said, one last time, let me see if it's still there. CROMthebarbarian.com is where the community lives, and cannot thank you guys enough for coming out and joining me. I think at one point there was 7 of us, not including me. I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. It feels like a task, put myself together and get here and then turn it on and then be turned on but it really just does flow out. You know what I mean? And it's nice. And having people come back again and again is just great. And I really hope you're working on something, if not reading some really good books and keeping this art form alive, indie comics. But other than that, I will be back probably Monday, if not Tuesday. I'm really shooting for that Monday because it will be in tandem with the newsletter. And I will have these pages, and I will have the pages that the next set of pages I'll be working on, which will be Jamie Barrow's Barbarians in the Pit. So starring CROM the Barbarian. So awesome with that. But thanks again, guys. You take care. Have a great weekend. Hopefully the weather is beautiful enough to have the windows open so you can hear the dump trucks move by. But take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.